You're listening to the Ethos Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to this Ethos Podcast, where I'm going to be in discussion with two colleagues of mine, I would say, friends of mine from the pharma industry who I've worked with from time to time over many years. And those two people are Dr. Ravi Pawa and Dr. Sheuli Porkess. My name is Dr. Nick Broughton, and I'm a pharmaceutical physician who's been a signatory for many years in the pharma industry, and I have the pleasure of being the managing director of Ethos Pharmaceutical Ethics and Compliance. Now, over to my two erstwhile colleagues here, Sheuli and Ravi. I'll just let you introduce yourselves and say a little bit about yourselves. Ravi, tell us a little bit about yourself. Why should we listen to you on topics about medical ethics and the pharmaceutical industry?
Okay. Hi, Nick, and thanks for inviting me to this podcast. I'm a pharmaceutical physician, similar background to yourselves, and I've been in medical affairs for about 12 years and been a signatory for most of that time. But I've also been involved in some jobs in help setting up governance and ethics committees and looking at internal expertise and governance and compliance. Most of that time.
And like me, we're a bit odd. We actually enjoy compliance and ethics and talking
Absolutely.
about that sort of
I think
stuff.
the code is my friend. Yes.
Yeah. There's too many people I think are a bit embarrassed about saying that, but we should say we enjoy it. It's good stuff. Sheuli, a little bit about you.
Great, thank you, and again, thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here. I'm Sheuli Porkess, so again, pharmaceutical physician with now a couple of decades experience in the industry, ranging from medical affairs to being started off as a reviewer for the code and then a signatory, and then more recently I was the Director of Research and Medicine and Innovation at the ABPI, so working with the code from a different angle. And I'm really interested in ethics and how we work as an industry with that ethical lens. So yeah, very happy to
be here. So we've got the right people in the room. That's fantastic, because what I want to talk about today is company signatories who sign off materials and activities on behalf of pharmaceutical companies. Because I've got a sort of worry, if you like, that they're not as important as they used to be. They're not as central to decision making as they used to be, and that's worrying me. We've now got signatory houses, people who sign off materials on behalf of pharmaceutical companies, and they probably, there is a role for that, I'm sure. And we've got AI coming into the situation where there are some people I'm hearing thinking, well, AI will remove the point of a signatory altogether, that actually it will be able to make firm decisions and accurate decisions. Why would we have people doing that? So to some extent, I just want to sort of, what's the point of having company signatories and that expertise internally? What's your reflections on some of the maybe controversial things I've just said there?
Okay. Interesting question, Nick. And to me, there's quite a few bits to this question. So, role of signatories now, but to your points about AI, it's the role of signatories in 5 years and 10 years.
Yeah.
And personally, I think even if you outsource most of your signatory work, having internal signatories is invaluable and essential.
Mm-hmm.
You need signatories from the onset of discussions for new campaigns, new products, any projects, to make sure that those projects are in line with what you want them for business objectives, but also in terms of compliance and ethics. And only an internal signatory can do that. AI would struggle, and outsourcing would be difficult, because internal signatories know the environment for their therapy area, their disease area, the regulations, and that is very different from sourcing out individual materials.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sheuli, what was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I come at it from the aspect of who is holding the risk.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a risk, whatever you do, whether you create materials, whether you don't create materials, whether you do an activity, whether you don't do an activity, that all has an associated risk, and there is no risk-free option. So then it's how do you, as a company, as an industry, as an individual, hold that risk?
Yeah.
And I think from the perspective of AI, I think, you can see AI, is it just a tool to work with? Is it like a junior colleague that needs lots of guidance and input? Is it like a colleague who's got deep expertise but doesn't understand the full context? And if you look at that and then say, but actually, so who's going to hold the risk of approving, signing something off or not? Because actually, whether it's you'd see it as a junior colleague or a deep expert, either of those, it's not, to Ravi's point, it's not going to know the full context.
Yeah.
It's not going to know the context of the therapy area, the regulations, the company culture, the commercial setting, all of those many contexts that as a signatory you hold and you apply into the decisions that you're making.
Yeah, I can see, that there are some limitations to what AI can do, and in terms of particularly understanding nuance and such, in making decisions. I suppose a counter to that might be that it's developing, and whatever its limitations at the moment in terms of assessing those things, it will get better. Do you think there's any sort of fundamental, if you can create AI that essentially is very close to human intelligence, and that is an aim for the AI singularity, or people describe that it can think like a human, do you think then we can hand over decision making to a machine?
I think it's really interesting. So if you look at current regulations, things like the EU AI Act, the IFPMA, so the international, pharma statements on AI, they all talk about accountability and humans holding accountability. So I think even if AI gets to a point where you technically could hold the decision making, actually there would need a fundamental shift in how businesses, societies, groups of industries are seeing AI, and the need for companies and individuals to hold that accountability, even if the AI is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And there's no doubt AI has the potential to be a really valuable tool.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. And if it can systematically and diligently do a lot of the checks and that are needed to be done, that's great. But actually it's holding the risk and that understanding the context. Even if we think we can do it, it's who's ultimately accountable.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with this point about accountability and holding the risk very, very much. To me, that's the central issue. To me, it's not ultimately the AI won't be able to make a call as it develops, but it's a question of how do you hold it accountable for a decision that it makes.
Yes.
And what we can't be in the situation of is, AI may make a decision, but I may personally disagree with it, just in the same way that good humans might disagree about what the right solution is in a particular situation. And therefore, it needs to be a human that makes the decision, because a human carries the can. So maybe this is me defending my job for many years, but I think it'll be very difficult for AI, and a fundamental shift, as you say, in the way we approach it, before we say we're going to hand over ethical decisions to AI. Because I think that is that would be, as you say, a fundamental shift. Ravi, any of your reflections on that?
I agree with what you've both said, and really to add to that, I think even if AI gets to the point where it can think ethically and make ethical decisions, somebody still has to give it that instruction, so the company and therefore the signatory is still responsible overall.
Yeah.
In the same way in the code that if you outsource Congress organizing to a Congress organizer, or making your materials with an agency, you're still responsible even if they mess up.
Yes.
So the signatory is still going to be accountable, responsible. So I can't see that changing.
No.
And I would love to have this conversation again in 2 years, actually, see what's happened.
Yeah, and I imagine that the attack will have moved a lot, but I still think that principle is going to hold for a very long time. I have a particular view, that you can't leave AI to make a decision where humans can reasonably disagree. You know, that me and you
Yes.
might disagree, Ravi, about a particular claim. You may say you're happy to sign it off. I may not be as comfortable to sign it off. It's a question of who's signing it off. That's the, you know, a sort of central theme there.
Then
Yeah, sorry. Karen.
also down the line, sometimes you have to go into intercompany dialogue. I, at the moment anyway, cannot see two AIs doing that.
Yeah,
You need your signatories.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think just sort of adding another perspective, I think, you know, the context of what we're talking about is medicines, and, you know, medicines are taken, you know, by people in conjunction with their doctor, and it's in that context, it's really important that, you know, you've got that human oversight and human in the loop, whatever phrase you want to use. If it was another industry, another process, it might be a different conversation, but actually, you know, if the activities we're doing, the materials we're producing, if those are all about educating doctors and ultimately are going to influence what happens, you know, with the patient's care, then actually, yes, you need to have that accountability.
Yeah. You know, I agree. And let's just then move a little bit to the signatory role within companies. We spend a little time on the sort of AI issue. Also, we know that companies have use external people to sign off campaigns. I get the feeling that the role of the signatory in it has been diminished in recent years, in the sense that it's no longer central to developing a campaign. It's more like a signatory role is more like a check. You know, it's been through the signatory check rather than a signatory contributing towards the value and the content of material. Do you agree with that, Ravi?
I agree that it's invaluable, but in the companies I've worked in, it's something I'm really passionate about, because I think if you start a campaign without all the stakeholders, there's always going to be blocks later.
Yeah.
I think you need the signatory in from the initial concept before it goes to the agency. And I've embedded that in places I've worked successfully. And I think that is just crucial. Otherwise, you always come into stumbling blocks. Hindsight, something wasn't anticipated. So that patient focus, knowing the ethics behind things, and that needs to be there in the whole team that's going to be involved in that campaign or that project. So from that point of view, I haven't seen diminishing.
Yeah.
But the hands-on signing things off is diminishing. But I think if the campaign is developed with all the right stakeholders, everything's been thought about, then having outsourced your final sign-off is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because it leaves those experts to do things they're better at doing.
Yeah.
And uses resource sensibly.
Yeah. There's certainly a place for that. Any reflections on that, Sheuli? I mean, signatory work isn't sort of central to what you do generally, but, you know, in terms of the role of the medic.
I think I'd just echo the point of having, you know, the right group of people in at the beginning.
Yeah.
So you get a good, rich discussion, put perspectives on the table. Again, it's back to context, isn't it? Providing each person providing the context of what you're trying to do and what good would look like.
Yeah. No, I take your point, Ravi. You know that you I do worry about it. Perhaps I'm maybe more of a worrier. I don't know, but that I always feel that, you know, it's unfortunate, and in truth it varies team by team within the industry, and even within the same company you get good teams and strong teams and teams that are more divided. And in the teams that are more divided, you know, that you do see, I think sometimes that behaviour that the campaign, or if it's a campaign that's being developed, belongs to marketing. And when you sign it off as a signatory, you're sort of doing them a favour, you know, that it's actually, you're marking their work, or it's got through that hurdle. Whereas in the best teams, everybody owns that campaign. Everybody feels responsible for it, and if it doesn't work or it has failings, everybody feels accountable. And I just wonder sometimes how do we get that better team approach, if you like? Any thoughts on that?
You both look at me.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
To go from one extreme to what good looks like is actually requires a lot of complex things to work. So for me, it's accountability, education, and empowerment. So everybody cross-functionally needs the right level of knowledge of the code, their environment, their industry. You cannot say, the signatory knows that, I'll abdicate that. That doesn't work.
Well, it's just inefficient, isn't it? People
Absolutely.
spending time developing stuff that,
Secondly, everybody needs to be empowered to be able to speak up, to know what they need to do to own their projects, and that's where the accountability comes in. They need to be accountable for the quality of the work they're doing.
Yeah.
And if you can get that right from the leadership all the way down, then you will get better teams and better projects from the outset. That level of ethical judgment needs to be embedded from the beginning. It's not always easy, Nick, and I've worked in teams where you've been handed something to sign and you think, I don't want to sign this.
Yeah.
Because you know it's not right. You know?
And in good teams as well, I think that sort of working well where people understand each other and respect each other, that if you're not happy with something, you don't need to point at a clause of the code of practice or a past code case.
Yes.
You just say, I'm not happy with that, and people respect that and understand that, because that is a reason not to approve something. I mean, my personal view on that to some extent, for some of the research we've done in teams, which shows that often brand teams don't have a common purpose, or the groups within them, that they should just spend a bit more time working on the team. Forget the brand for 5 minutes, do some work on how you interact and what makes it a good interaction. You've worked in lots of teams,
and
Sheuli, what's your
I'd echo
thoughts?
that. I think it's I've seen teams where maybe the medical part of the team's like, marketing's not involving us, but then it's also, but are you reaching out to them? How are you getting involved? Etc. And it all comes then down, exactly as you say, to team dynamics and investing time in the team as a team, but also what are we trying to do here? What does good look like for the team, for the brand, for patients, and then working back from that, so that when you do get we've got to do this thing and we're quite under pressure from the timelines, actually everyone's going, but I understand why this is important, and let's have a good conversation, and it's respecting each other, saying if you're saying no or you're saying no, then actually there'll be a reason for that, let's work together. So,
No, that's interesting. Just finally, and it was actually something you said right at the beginning, Ravi, about there is a value in outsourcing some work, and AI will have a good role, as you said, Sheuli, in as helping with making decisions and sign off. How do we ensure that signatories maintain their skills, though? Because if you're going to be a good signatory, you've got to have done some of the grunt work, if you like. You've got to know why it's important to check things.
Yes.
How do we keep the skills up in the signatory group so that it's powerful within the company?
Okay, great question, and I think that's where the challenge is going to be for a lot of companies, especially smaller companies who may have brought in the AI or outsourced day-to-day signatory work. They may not be able to provide their training signatories with the mentorship, the experience to get that broad knowledge. I think signatories have got to do the grunt work. There's no other way around it, but I'd be interested to know your thoughts.
So from an AI angle, it's a parallel discussion, there was a parallel discussion happening across lots of other industries and things. So if we take, for example, radiology, training radiologists to look at x-rays, actually if AI is going to look at all your x-rays, how are you going to learn to look at an x-ray? And so I think we're not the only industry looking at this, but I think even if AI gets to a point where it's embedded within a company, there still needs to be, people still need to be looking at materials and things, not just as a signatory, but all the way through the review as part of the oversight of the AI.
Yes.
So I think smart integration of AI into your systems means that you can provide initial training and also ongoing maintenance of skills through how you oversee the AI, how you work with it, and not just assuming, oh, the AI's there, therefore that bit's right, and we don't need humans doing that bit, because that's absolutely not where what good oversight will look like, I think. So, but yes, it'll be interesting, as you say, if we're here in 2 years' time, what are people actually doing, and what does a training look like? We will have spent lots of time doing job bags over the years, and actually what does that look like now for new signatories?
Yeah, no, I think that's it's a fascinating challenge in many ways, isn't it? Particularly this, that we and as we're doing work on AI at the moment, and you read this requirement for human oversight and human in the loop. Yeah. But if the human doesn't know the subject, what's the point of having the human in the loop?
Quite.
You almost have to go out of your way to make sure that people are trained and have got that background knowledge. And I think we'll have to do that with signatories to make sure we've got that expertise. I mean, it's been a fantastic discussion. Yeah. Thank you for your time today and for your insights. And I'm sure there'll be more discussions that we have over these microphones in the coming weeks and months. Thank you.